be fulfilled, which is important, and I love that. So, God's sure judgment on Jerusalem. Then the Spirit lifted me up and brought me to the gate of the house of the Lord that faces east. There at the entrance of the gate were 25 men, and I saw among them Then the Spirit of the Lord came on me, and he told me to say, "This is what the Lord says. That is what you are saying, you leaders in Israel, but I know what is going through your mind. You have killed many people in this city and filled its streets with the dead. Therefore, this is what the sovereign Lord says. So what I'm doing is I am typing in Jesus Christ warrant Nazarene. Jesus of Nazareth, enemy of the state, executed for treason. Jesus of Nazareth was executed today on orders of the Roman state. Method of execution, crucifixion. The charge under Roman law was treason, and under Herodian law, blasphemy against the temple. The evidence against this anarchist was so strong that authorities of both the Roman state and the kingdom of Herod concurred with the arrest and execution, and he was subjected to trial by both governments, and in a rare uprising of spontaneous collective justice, the mass of people who were gathered for Passover called for his execution as well. The mob affirmed their loyalty to the state, chanting, "We have no king but Caesar." Friday's execution ended a career as an anti-government agitator with a long history of lawlessness. The family was in possession of falsified, illegal, and unsanctioned genealogical records, which claimed to indicate that Jesus was of royal lineage, and undermined the legitimate claim of Herod to the throne. The malicious claim, which has been spread widely among the people, is that the king is an Idumean and not a Jew. The king is tormented by this claim and laments that shortly after his father's rise to power, the genealogical records, which would certainly have proven his legitimate right to reign, perished in a mysterious fire, likely set by anti-government agitators. Even as a young child, Jesus was recognized as an enemy of the state and was sentenced to death by the current king's predecessor, Herod the Great. Subversive foreign agents lied to the king, and with their help, Jesus and his family escaped the lawful orders of the government authority by illegally immigrating to Egypt, where they remained in hiding until the death of the king. Afterwards, they are known to have illegally immigrated back into Greater Israel, where they settled in Galilee, toward the edge of the kingdom and far from the swift justice of the capital region. Jesus, who was also treasonably called the Christ by his followers, embarked on a public career roughly 3 years ago with the assistance of his cousin John, who himself was executed by the state for lack of respect for the office of the king. Jesus' criminal career included public insults of the king, calling Herod a fox and a reed blowing in the wind, implying that the Roman state was under God and not properly the other way around. Harassment of government officials, including at least one tax collector and one Sanhedrin member, as well as ordering and or encouraging them to remit wealth back to the people from whom it was lawfully taxed. He was also guilty of a series of actions which treasonously called into legitimacy organs of the state, such as Herod's temple. For example, he offered forgiveness and fellowship with God to sinners, violating the temple monopoly of public expiation and forgiveness. Furthermore, he illegally trespassed on government property and interfered with state-sanctioned money-changing operations, which were properly operating with the permission of the appointees of the king at state-approved exchange rates. He was able for a time to avoid arrest through a tactic of cleverly disguising his anti-government propaganda in the form of coded answers, suggestive but ambiguous analogies, and confusing aphorisms, by which he managed to gather a following without giving clear evidence of his treasonous views. However, his anti-government propaganda eventually became undeniable, predicting the destruction of Herod's temple and even denying its legitimacy, declaring it to be desolate. His execution was swift and merciless, and his disciples have been scattered. Authorities are confident that his name will quickly be forgotten, while Rome, the eternal city, will last forever. The temple built on the power of the Roman state and Herodian kingship will stand forever. Authorities assure the people that the ultimate punishment on which all state power rests, death by execution, is the final word on this short episode in Roman history. All right. The Lord of whom Arkolf was speaking is Jesus Christ. In his 1875 unabridged edition of Gleanings for the Curious from the Harvest Fields of Literature, Dr. C. Bombog shared with us some astounding archaeological evidence of his unwelcome presence on this planet by quoting a document engraved on a copper artifact that led to his miserable dismissal. He wrote, "Of the many interesting relics and fragments brought to light by the preserving researches of antiquarians, none could be more interesting to the philanthropist and believer than the following to Christians. The most imposing judicial document ever recorded in human annuals. It has been faithfully transcribed as follows. The death warrant of Jesus Christ. Sentence rendered by Pontius Pilate, acting governor of Lower Galilee, stating that Jesus of Nazareth shall suffer death on the cross. In the year 17 of the Emperor Tiberius Caesar, on the 27th day of March, the city of the Holy Jerusalem, Annas and Caiaphas being priests, sacrificators of the people of God, Pontius Pilate, governor of Lower Galilee, sitting in the presidential chair of the Praetory, condemns Jesus of Nazareth to die on the cross between two thieves. The great and notorious evidence of the people saying, Jesus is a seducer. He is seditious. He is the enemy of the law. He calls himself falsely the Son of God. He calls himself falsely the King of Israel. He entered into the temple, followed by a multitude bearing palm branches in their hands. Orders the first centurion, Quilius Cornelius, to lead him to the place of execution. Forbids any whomsoever, either poor or rich, to oppose the death of Jesus Christ. The witnesses who signed the condemnation of Jesus are Daniel Rabbani, a Pharisee, Joannes Rabbani, Raphael Rabbani, Capet, a citizen. Jesus shall go out of the city of Jerusalem by the gate of Strunis. The foregoing was engraved on a copper plate, on the reverse of which is written, "A similar plate is sent to each tribe." It was found in an antique marble vase while excavating the ancient city of Aquila in the kingdom of Naples in the year 1810, and was discovered by the commissioners of arts of the French army. At the expedition of Naples, it was enclosed in a box of ebony and preserved in the sacristy of the Carthusians. The commissioners of arts made the French translation. The original is in the Hebrew language. Alright, so all righteousness must be fulfilled in order to Jeremiah's complaint. You are always righteous, Lord, when I bring a case before you. Yet I would speak with you about your justice. Why does the way of the wicked prosper? Why do all the faithless live at ease? You have planted them, and they have taken root. They grow and bear fruit. You are always on their lips, but far from their hearts. Yet you know me, Lord. You see me and test my thoughts about you. Drag them off like sheep to be butchered. Set them apart for the day of slaughter. How long will the land lie parched and the grass in every field be withered? Because those who live in it are wicked. The animals and birds have perished. Moreover, the people are saying, "He will not see what happens to us." God's answer. The covenant is broken. This is the word that came to Jeremiah from the Lord. Listen to the terms of this covenant and tell them to the people of Judah and to those who live in Jerusalem. Tell them that this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Cursed is the one who does not obey the terms of this covenant, the terms I commanded your ancestors when I brought them out of Egypt, out of the iron smelting furnace. I said, "Obey me and do everything I command you, and you will be my people, and I will be your God. Then I will fulfill the oath I swore to your ancestors to give them a land flowing with milk and honey, the land you possess today. If you have raced with men on foot, and they have worn you out, how can you compete with horses? If you stumble in safe country, how will you manage in the thickets by the Jordan? Your relatives, members of your own family, even they have betrayed you. They have raised a loud cry against you. Do not trust them, though they speak well of you. I will forsake my house, abandon my inheritance. I will give the one I love into the hands of her enemies. My inheritance has become to me like a lion in the forest. She roars at me, therefore I hate her. Has not my inheritance become to me like a speckled bird of prey, that other birds of prey surround and attack? Say to them, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Every wineskin should be filled with wine. And if they say to you, don't we know that every wineskin should be filled with wine? Then tell them, This is what the Lord says. I am going to fill with drunkenness all who live in this land, including the kings who sit on David's throne, the priests, the prophets, and all those living in Jerusalem. Hear and pay attention. Do not be arrogant, for the Lord has spoken. Give glory to the Lord your God before he brings the darkness before your feet stumble on the darkening hills. You hope for light, but he will turn it to utter darkness and change it to deep gloom. If you do not listen, I will weep in secret because of your pride. My eyes will weep bitterly, overflowing with tears, because the Lord's flock will be taken captive. Say to the king and to the queen mother, come down from your thrones, for your glorious crowns will fall from your heads. Saying the words that the Spirit tells me to say. Let there be light. Because I'm the only one that can judge, and I know what happened. Idumea is Greek for Edom. And Esau and Jacob, it was basically, both of you can be king. I was like, you rule this side, you rule that side, basically. And then, whichever one obeys me, I'm going to support. Neither one really obeyed too well, but one obeyed more than the other. One was always like, this is how far I can go. And then always turned back to me. The other one just completely... This goes back to Egypt. And a people that mixed in with my people, which was my whole, I have to be high priest and king type of thing. I was always telling them, pick this high priest, and I'll take care of everything. Then I will honor what I've already honored. Again. They wouldn't do it, so there was a gap. I was like, you are not my people. You know, take my law and then decide that you get to do this with it, basically, was my whole complaint. I was like, I have the law. This is important because of promises that I made. I always keep my promises. Do not take my law and then decide you can still have my favor and support, blessing, protection, and all of the things that come with that by turning it into some type of less than my law. So they weren't doing what I told them to do. So I showed up myself. And I really had no interest in Herod's throne at all. It was well known. I did was confirm it. I was like, yeah, that's true. Who cares? That was always my thought. I was like, there was a Herod before him, there will be a Herod after him. My concern was my people. And there's a lot of things I'm not going to get into that explain history, but I've always been upset by how my name has been treated, and I get that people are just kids, but at the same time, it has an impact on what other people think of me as me. My biggest thing was the way it was went about. So I had to judge that. I was like, you broke the law. What was done was, as I saw it, was the nicest way I can put it. There are no words. You would have to understand the law and then judicial process and everything that was not observed whatsoever. It was a very ferocious time as far as testing people's hearts. Everyone knew it was wrong. I had people telling me, this is so wrong, this is so wrong, this is so wrong. I had people weeping, and it's like, he does not deserve this. Why would they do this to him? But that's my life. So, when you are using my name, then you need to understand what it cost me. And when you are talking about God, or using God to justify your means, you need to understand, I'm going to take offense. So if I'm a certain way with certain people, there's a reason behind everything I do. And I prefer talking about positive and the things I want to talk about. But if you don't have a belief in God's justice and God, you don't have a belief system that will protect you, make you feel loved, and remove the fear and negativity that comes from the human heart. It transcends time. It is the only way, the truth, and the light. Obedience to God removes fear. It removes all the negative things. And this book is about The Edomites settled in one part of what's, I always say the words the Spirit tells me to say, the land, because they had a certain way of life. So that was their land. And then Israel, the people that I'm concerned about, Judah. All of this is already forgiven. All of this has already been, by law, my own law, and a prophecy fulfilled, addressed. All right, I love you.
Perfect.